How's it going? And welcome to another week of the Professor DW podcast. This was week 3. I'm Tony Davila. Matthew King's back. Wow, he's back.
I was sick, so trust me, you didn't want to hear my voice the last couple of weeks.
He did week 1. I did the last 2, but now here we are together.
We're going to tag team this.
Exactly. So, Professor DW did not do great this week, but it was a weird NFL week. I think that lots of weird things happened. Block field goal after block field goal.
Upsets.
Couple of teams that we don't want to talk about getting beat. Yeah, so that happened. But this week we did have 2 brand new people get into the exclusive postseason tournament. That is big, as well as now it has been 6 different people getting in. Nobody has double dipped.
Not yet. 6 people out of the 6 possible entries. 30 are still up for grabs. But again, those people who have already grabbed one can take up those extra entries and just keep other people out of there, give themselves a better chance of winning still.
Yeah, that is the big key there, is keep playing. Knock people out. Get more chances. It's like buying a lottery ticket twice.
Win some more money.
Exactly.
Keep beating the professor, because yikes.
Yeah, yikes. Wow. Professor might have started Oktoberfest a little bit too soon.
Well, the professor had actually done pretty good the first 2 weeks. He'd been competitive, hadn't won yet. Of course, week 2, Jared Kickner only missed a single game, so you can't really fault the professor for losing that week. This week, though, the professor's performance was abysmal. 6 games right. 6. Total of 16. It was pitiful. It was the worst performance, I think, in Professor DW history.
Probably close to it.
I hope that it is the bottom of the barrel. But it was a really tight week, Tony. 8 contestants ended up tying with 12. Again, we talked about some upsets. The Packers losing to the Browns. That one hurts me to my very soul. Was a sizable upset. Not a lot of people saw Chicago beating Dallas. And surprisingly, not a lot of people had Detroit over Baltimore on Monday Night Football either. And then Carolina over Atlanta was the other one. So some nice upsets.
Yeah, and it was a weird thing with the Lions, and they had such a good season last year. Defense is back, and now the Lions destroyed Chicago last week coming in. It was kind of odd that nobody really liked the Lions, but hey, it happens.
Everyone's on the Ravens hype, but we had 8 contestants tie with 12 points, so we did have to go to the tiebreaker. I think the largest tiebreaker we've ever had. And that's where you kind of mentioned the blocked field goals, 4 of them on Sunday. The total yardage was down from previous weeks. 2,159 was the total yardage on field goals. And you had a bunch of contestants go with the Price is Right rule, trying to lowball it. But then you had like Jim Spinelli have 2,000. So he kind of wiped away so many of those with his guess alone. However, Jim did not finish in the top 2. Our top 2, in second place, Lee Stockwell, whose guess of 2,083. So Lee doesn't get the money, but he does get an entry into the postseason tournament. And in first place, Alicia Clark. Her guess of 2,145 was just 14 yards below the actual total. So the blocked field goals kind of helped her. However, if there was one more blocked field goal or one more miss, her guess would have been over, and she would not have won the contest. So, like, for example, Harrison Butker, his 50-something yard field goal in Sunday Night Football hit the upright, bounced it. If that doesn't go in, her guess is over, and she doesn't get the win. Instead, we're talking about Lee getting the win. However, if you take away those blocked field goals, Jennifer Kickner might have won with her guess of 2,382. So it was really tight. Those blocked field goals really played a huge impact, but it is Alicia Clark who gets the win. And I believe it was Alicia last year who actually nailed the tiebreaker, was the first contestant ever to nail the tiebreaker.
I think she might have been. That, and you're hearing all these familiar names as well, because there's yet another Kickners. Last week, Jared got on there. Bob was close. He just missed out on the field goal yardage. Again, that tiebreaker has come into effect every week so far. So maybe it was a good thing that the professor changed up that bonus question, that tiebreaker question that has come into effect. But you're hearing a lot of these names over and over again at the top, and that's a good thing. Keep on entering and block other people from winning.
And for those people who are watching this, we're going to give you the little tip. Price is Right rule. Going super low is not going to work this year. That's going to be your gift for tuning into the podcast. So guessing 700 or 800, that's not going to get the win because people are doing prices right, but they're doing it smart, getting up to 2,000. So that's going to be a key. You're going to have to actually narrow in on a guess this year if you want to win the tiebreaker.
Yeah, the $1 isn't going to get you the Price is Right deal.
It's not going to work this year. But congratulations to Alicia Clark again. She gets the win and destroyed the professor, doubled up. So she gets the $27 this week. But Lee Stockwell also gains access into the postseason. So like Tony said, we're up to 6 entries out of 6 opportunities, still 30 opportunities left to get into the postseason tournament.
Yeah, lots of people still keep on entering, get in. It is already up. The week is up and active, so make sure you get signed up for this week as well. Keep on making that happen. With that, let's go into Professor's picks this week.
Professor did get his picks in very early this week, so we're grateful for that. So the Professor starting with Thursday night football. The Seahawks over the Arizona Cardinals is the Professor's prediction. Of course, in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of Seahawks fans, they look good last week. Arizona lost a heartbreaker. Big NFC West game, though.
Yeah, Arizona lost James Conner as well. The Seahawks defense is starting to get more and more love. Probably not Legion of Boom level yet, but they're looking for their own nickname because their defense has looked good so far this year.
Then we move into Sunday, where we're going to start a little early with the first European game of the year over in Dublin, the first NFL game in Ireland. You got the Minnesota Vikings and Pittsburgh Steelers. The Professor likes the Steelers to get the win. The Vikings coming off a really impressive win over Cincinnati, although it's what's left of Cincinnati. Pittsburgh righted the ship with a win over New England. This is really a coin flip game.
It kind of is because you don't know what you're getting. Is Carson Wentz good? Is Minnesota's defense, special teams as good as they were last week? Who knows? And then we've kind of seen a fluctuation from Pittsburgh in the last couple of weeks. First week, it was that back and forth against the Jets. Last week, it wasn't great. And now, is this the bounce back in Ireland? Who knows? Maybe jet lag kicks in for both teams, and it's one of those sloppy games.
The Professor really likes this next pick a lot. He's got Washington to defeat the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta's coming off a blowout loss, 30-0 to Carolina. Washington with Marcus Mariota taking over for Jaden Daniels with his knee injury. Professor says it doesn't matter. Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, Commanders are winning this game.
Commanders are coming in hot. Atlanta, somehow it was the wide receiver coach's fault that they lost, but they should be all right. Offense for Atlanta is good, but Washington, Mariota, they don't miss a step. They both him and Daniels both kind of run the same kind of system. They're mobile quarterbacks. They can get the ball out quickly. There's a reason why Mariota won a Heisman. He's not a bad drop-off at quarterback, so Washington looking good, and go Bill.
Speaking of Bill, we're not really going to talk about this one. The Buffalo Bills over New Orleans. Professor really going bold there. We'll just kind of skip by that one. The Saints are terrible.
Buffalo, enough said.
The next one, before last week, you would have thought same thing, Detroit over Cleveland. However, Cleveland showed they're capable of springing the upset. The big win over Green Bay. I kind of just want to move on past that one. But Detroit has looked like Detroit the last couple of weeks. I think this is kind of a no-brainer, too, that we don't have to talk about too much.
Yeah, that week one goose egg, not really indicative of what Detroit has been, especially their offense looking good, riding the ship, and really coming on strong now.
This next game is between two teams who I think best case scenario is getting a 7 seed in a wild card. The Professor likes New England to beat Carolina. The Patriots coming off that loss to Pittsburgh dropped them to 1-2. Carolina into the win column with that blowout win over Atlanta. They were kind of a darling pick. However, the Professor doesn't buy it. He thinks New England will run the ball, keep the ball on their side of the field, not give the Panthers any chances on offense.
Carolina's good. I mean, ish. They don't look terrible anymore. It's not New Orleans is now taking over that seat of being probably the worst team in the league. But Carolina had that firmly in their grasp for a few seasons. But, I mean, one game, they look really good. Hopefully they don't buy too much into their own hype from that big win over Atlanta, and they can put up a good game against New England. But, yeah, I would take New England as well.
New England probably should have beat Pittsburgh if it wasn't for the second half turnover.
Yeah.
So we'll see if the Patriots can bounce back. Professor also really likes this one. He's confident. for good reason. The LA Chargers over the New York Giants. And the professor made his picks after the news that Jackson Dart will start at quarterback for the Giants this week. Chargers, though, they're red hot, 3-0. They look like a real contender in the AFC.
Yeah, Chargers look really good. Giants, they have some room for improvement. So, yeah, I don't see why the Chargers don't come away with a big win there. Defense for the Chargers is good. Justin Herbert's doing great for my fantasy team, kind of 2-1, so not bad. But I like the Chargers as well.
Maybe should have started him this
I
week.
probably should have.
How about this game? I think this is the game of the week for me. Professor thinks the defending Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia, they lose this week to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, first team to be 3-0 with 3 game-winning scores in the final minute. The Bucs just are finding a way to win. They're banged up, now missing Mike Evans, along with Chris Godwin. Emeka Egbuka has really stepped up in a big way. Philly kind of fortunate to get out of last week with a win over the Rams. This is a really good ball game. Professor likes the Bucs.
It is. The Bucs are one of those. They're the new cardiac kids. They play every game close. They're in it. If they have the ball at the end of the game, bet on Baker Mayfield to make something happen. Somebody on that offense is going to happen. It seems to be that kind of season for the Bucs.
We'll see if Philadelphia got the wake-up call last week that they needed in their quest for a repeat. AFC South battle between a couple of 0-3 teams. Someone's got to get a win. The press thinks this is finally the week for Houston to defeat Tennessee. The Titans' offensive line has been atrocious to start the year. They've actually put up more points than I think many expected. Houston, I don't know what happened after a couple of years ago. Even last year, they were competitive in the playoffs. This is a must-win game, I think, for Houston.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the Texans early on in the year. You watch them play. They still have CJ Stroud. They still have some of the offensive weapons. You bring in the running back and Chubb. Good running game. Defense is still there. Not sure why Houston's struggling, how bad they are struggling early on in the season. So, yeah, I could definitely see that being the ship-riding game against the Titans.
CJ Stroud got to take better care of the football because Houston's looking up at the next team, the 3-0 Indianapolis Colts. They're taking on the 2-1 Rams. This is going to be a close game. The Rams don't know how to do anything else other than play close games. The professor's buying into Indiana Jones, though. He's got the Colts moving to 4-0 with the win over the Rams. I mean, you can't really doubt the Colts anymore. They play complete football, offense, defense. They've got it all. It's tough to pick against them right now.
Maybe the Colts finally found the quarterback that is right for their system, and Danny Dimes, Indiana Dan, whatever you want to call him, is doing great things so far early in the year. Seeing how this goes, yeah, I could see that being a shootout with the Rams. The Rams, their offense is really good. Their defense has struggled a little bit. See how the defense does for the Rams.
And here's a sizable upset for the professor. He likes Jacksonville over San Francisco. Now, the quarterback situation with the Niners is kind of in flux right now. Mac Jones is banged up, but it sounds like Brock Purdy could be back this week. Brock Purdy plays. I love the Niners. I just can't trust Trevor Lawrence. This offense is so inconsistent. I disagree with the professor, but the professor says the Jags pull the upset.
Somebody's got to pull an upset at some point. I don't hate it, Jacksonville. They at least have continuity for who's playing week in and week out. San Francisco, you never know who's playing for them. They are constantly losing defenders. You don't know which wide receivers are going to play week in and week out. And the looming cloud that is a Christian McCaffrey injury is always there for San Francisco. So, yeah, I could see Jacksonville getting the big win there.
Question marks about San Francisco. So far, all they've done this season, win. 3-0.
Yeah.
Next game, how about this? One of these teams is going to be 1-3 after this week. The press thinks Baltimore goes on the road and defeats Kansas City. Either Ravens or Chiefs are going to be 1-3. I think the Ravens might be better off if they're 1-3 than if Kansas City drops to 1-3. This is a huge game where between two teams who do not think they'd be in this position before the season started.
Yeah, how this is going, it's kind of odd seeing Kansas City, but I this is one that I disagree with. Baltimore, for some reason, always struggles against Kansas City, and it's in Kansas City. That's why I don't like it as much. Kansas City at home is a different beast than they are on the road. They might have some different people back. See if Worthy comes back and can contribute on offense. That could be huge. Baltimore, for some reason, can't get over that Kansas City hump. So I disagree with that with the professor.
Derrick Henry got to fix that fumbling problem if Baltimore wants to go on a run. Last game of the afternoon slate, the Las Vegas Raiders over the Chicago Bears is the professor's pick. Now, the question is, did the Bears figure something out on offense, or did they just play the Dallas Cowboys? Professor, he's not buying the Bears.
Unfortunately, Chicago played Dallas, who, as a Cowboys fan, that secondary is awful for the Cowboys. There's no getting around it. So I think Chicago comes back down to earth. Caleb Williams is good, but he isn't that good like he was last week. So I think Vegas gets the win there. I just don't trust that Chicago offense to be amazing. I think the Dallas secondary is just that bad. And that's from a Cowboys fan. Sorry, but that's the truth.
Well, it's interesting that this is the first week where we've had two on at the same time, because we got the Cowboys fan, we got the Packers fan. They play on Sunday Night Football. Of course, the story is Micah Parsons' return to Dallas. Green Bay, I think, look past Cleveland. They're focusing on this game. Jordan Love did not play well at all last week. Professor says Green Bay gets the win. I tend to agree with him. I think this is going to be a huge week for Micah Parsons and the Packers defense. And like you said, Dallas's defense so far has not been able to stop anyone.
Haven't been able to stop anybody. They put their best wide receiver in at running back and got him hurt. So, yeah, it's not looking good for the Cap. It's looking good for having a high draft pick. But for this game, I just don't see Green Bay losing 2 games in a row, especially with how bad Dallas looked against Chicago.
Look for Micah Parsons. I think he's looking forward to this game. Watch out.
Yeah.
Double Monday Night Football. We're going to start with the, I guess, more competitive, in my opinion, of the two. Battle of 0-3 teams, the New York Jets and Miami Dolphins. The professor says the Jets get the win. I have no idea if I agree or disagree. This game is going to be a slot fest. Was Miami's performance against Buffalo last week for real, or did they just get amped up on a short week? Jets, if Justin Fields plays, I think I lean towards the Jets. Will he play? I don't know, but Tyrod Taylor put them in a spot to win. However, they're not going to be able to play bad for 3 quarters and still be in the game most of the time.
I like the Jets in this one. Yeah, it's in Miami, but the Jets have looked decent in every game. They haven't looked just terrible. And Miami, their first 2 games, wow, that was not good football at all. They were giving the Saints a run for their money on very bad football. But Miami seems to be moving in the right direction. But I think the Jets defense is still the rock there. As long as they protect the ball, I think the Jets win.
And we'll cap it all off with the Denver Broncos and Cincinnati Bengals. The professor says Denver gets the win here. The Broncos, they've lost their last 2 games, both on last-second field goals. Cincinnati, Jake Browning got them to win over Jacksonville. However, last week, they were a disaster against the Minnesota Vikings. I say they played worse last week than the Saints played against Seattle. This Denver defense is about to feast on a beat-up Bengals offense.
Yeah, Denver's defense is very, very good. They don't make a lot of mistakes on offense. I just don't see how Cincinnati can overcome that, especially with how they looked last week. Yeah, they're going to fix some things. They still have Jamar Chase. That's always going to be great. But that's what they have. There isn't anything else that scares you. Browning looked good at times, but did not look good last week. So, yeah, Denver should get the big win there for sure.
So there is all 16 games. Again, week 4 is up right now on EliSportsNetwork.com. Make sure you're getting signed up for your chance to try and get into the postseason tournament and your chance to win the Ticket Bonanza at the end of the season in the playoffs. So once again, that'll wrap up this episode of the podcast, and we'll see you next week for week 4 results of Professor DW's Football Pick'em Challenge.